Hey guys, gals, welcome back to another episode here with No Name Trapper. So today's episode's pretty interesting. It's based on the last episode. We had a good question, very good question. Um, we're doing some projects outside today, soaking some traps in vinegar and water, clean them up. But the question was, why not use cable instead of chain? And that's a very, very good question. So we're going to talk about that. All right. If any of you are familiar with um, Ocean Gate, uh, the submarine that imploded, okay, I believe they were using carbon fiber. Okay, so um, carbon fiber is made of millions of strands uh, of wire, which is essentially what cable is. Okay, so when you're running cable, you can have frays, you can have rusting, interior rusting that you're not going to see by visually inspecting. And what happens with that is the same thing that happened on Ocean Gate. It all goes south real quick. Okay, there's not a lot of signs visually inspecting from the outside. Okay, you can have cable that looks good that you've exposed at some point to some moisture, and it may look good, and it may just fail all at once. Chain, on the other hand, is easy to visually inspect, and it can withhold uh, the damage and moisture because it's protected interior to exterior, right? You can see the damage starts on the outside and works its way in. So what I'm going to tell you right here is, I love my 160 RBGs. They come with cable and they swivel on each end, right? And it's actually a good design, works really well. You're set, but for a limited amount of time, right? You've got good swivels and you've got a solid cable. Okay, now with that being said, I can visually inspect this cable, right? This cable is actually 2 years old, if I remember correctly. You see here, we're starting to see some rust on the exterior. That means probably interior wise, it's in a lot worse condition than it appears on the exterior. Also, there's a bend. The cable kinks easier, okay? And sometimes the kinks cause permanent damage by fraying the cable or wires inside, and we can't always see that. Okay, so that is the problem with cable. Now when you go over and you look at chain, okay, so chain, what you're visually inspecting for is cuts on the outside. Typically you can see them, there'll be a nick that's torn out, right, or that's cut out, and then rust, and you can see about how deep the rust is just from looking on the exterior of the chain. This chain's in very good shape. It's been exposed to, I think, 1 season, okay, and there's no frays in that chain, no cuts, in that chain, no puncture marks. The rust is still exterior, none of it's really eaten very far, and that right there, and it doesn't kink as easy, especially with swivels. All right, that right there is why you want chain over cable. Now, cable will work, and it'll work very well, but you're on borrowed time. You do not know how long, even if you're a professional at inspecting cable and you know what to look for. I've been around cable, chain, steel, and all that for 10 to 15 years in the factory, so I've kind of learned what to look for. But with that being said, you're still going to miss some things, okay? You really will, especially when you've got hundreds of traps or whatever to inspect. So cable works, and it works very well, but it's very temporary, and you need to be very cautious on how many years you run that, and you need to replace it. Chain, you don't need to replace near as often, okay? And it's very quick and very easy to visually inspect. That is why I recommend chain instead of cable. All right, I don't want to set you guys up to fail. And you can use cable. Like I said, just be very cautious, okay? So that's what today's video is about. It was a great question, and it equal a good follow-up answer. Okay, so if you guys have more questions, don't hesitate to ask on here. Chain over cable, cable short-term solution, chain long-term solution. Tight chains, guys. We're going to see you on the next episode. We'll keep filming and answering questions. Tight chains.